What's happening, everybody? Trey here, joined as always by my dad, Sean, and today at Reactions to the Classics, we got another review up of one of our favorites here at the channel,
That's
Mr.
right.
Bob Dylan. This time, his 2001 record, Love and Theft, and this comes courtesy of a suggestion from our patron, Sean, and as always, Sean, we appreciate it.
Thank you, Sean.
And before we get into the quick facts and track-by-track review, just want to note, if you like this video, be sure to give us a thumbs up. That helps us out, and consider hitting that subscribe button as well. We upload every single day. We got song reactions, top 10 lists, album reviews, live streams, all that fun stuff. And you can also check out our social media below, particularly our Facebook group. Got a great group of people there in the community, as well as our Patreon page if you'd like to support us for as little as $1 a month. It helps keep the channel rocking, man.
Exactly. Also, check out our podcast. Drops every Friday. And also give that Instagram page a little bit of a look. I'm trying, guys, to get that up there a little bit. Give you a sneak preview of what's coming up the next day. Trey, Bob Dylan is quickly gaining on the Beatles for the most videos up on this channel. This is his 31st studio album. I don't have to even glance down on my notes to see when it was released, because it was released on September 11th, 2001, the day for those of us in America. Went to number 5 on the charts, incredibly highly acclaimed. Rolling Stone's 385 on the 500 albums, best albums of all time. Newsweek magazine said it was the second best album of the decade. In 2009, Glide magazine ranked it as the #1 album of the decade. And Entertainment Weekly put it on its end of the decade best of list. It won the Grammy Award for Best Contemporary Folk Album, and it was nominated for Album of the Year. And the track Honest With Me was nominated for Best Male Rock Performance. And the album was a follow-up to Time Out of Mind from 1997, which we have reviewed on this channel, but it got even greater critical acclaim. Now, Bob gave an interesting interview as this was coming out, just talking about people who try to dissect his lyrics and are connoisseurs of his music. He's like, you guys don't have any idea anything about me. Find something else better to do. Get a life. So I thought that's Bob, not really a way to push the album sales out, but hey, I appreciate that Mr. Zimmerman is always honest.
Oh, absolutely. And the title Love and Theft kind of notes he borrowed some lines from other artists' work here and combined them, you know, with his own stuff to make a new song.
And he was honest about it.
Yeah.
That's what I like about it.
So there you go. You got. I'm loving these people, and I'm also gonna, you know, take a couple of their stuff. But a lot of lines here harken back to you know, old bluesy songs, old folk songs, literary references as well, as you would expect from Bob coming in here. So now I guess we can just jump right into this record with Tweedledee and Tweedledum. What a way to start off the record, man. You're immediately introduced to a bluesy arrangement. And
very driving.
Yeah, and the whole record really does have that Americana and then electric blues, a little bit of country in there as well at certain points. It's a sound that I think fits Bob's voice, though. You can tell he's a little more rugged here, just reflecting that maturity that you know, you would expect from Bob, and it works well with the arrangement here. Not a standout track for me, but he kind of notes the cunningness of old Tweedledee and Tweedledum.
Yeah, and he's talking about the land of Nod and referencing poetry, as Bob always does. You know, we break down the lyrics before we do this and really look at them, and Bob is always the most interesting case study, because he puts so much to unpack. Yeah, it's just crazy. You know, the guy just pulls from everywhere, which, you know, he's arguably the greatest lyricist of all time. For me on this song's okay. I mean, I actually don't like the arrangement very much, but, you know, it's not bad. That's going to take us to Mississippi. It's over 5 minutes long, 12 verses. Sheryl Crow did a version of it, Trey. It is number 260 on the Rolling Stones 500 greatest songs of all time, and it lives up to the hype. I had never heard this song. I absolutely love this song. This is far and away for me the best track on this album. Now, interestingly enough, it was first recorded for the previous album back in 1997, Time Out of Mind. He did re-record it, though, for this album. So I always like that. If an artist is going to bring something that they'd recorded for another session, I like when they re-record it for the current album, because they're just obviously going to have a different sound to them. And you can't even mention that with Bob being 4 years older and being, you know, getting older up there. His voice even sounds different than it did in Time Out of Mind. And I'm glad it wasn't on that album, because if you've watched the review of that album, I'm not crazy about the arrangement and just the sound of that album. I thought
with
Bob,
the Lanois production.
Lanois production. So he didn't let my man Daniel ruin it. So, and I like Daniel Lanois and a lot of his other stuff, but I'm glad it wasn't on that album.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. This was my favorite track as well on the record. Kind of harkened back to that golden, period of Bob. A very strong vocal performance. Love the arrangement and just lyrics that really hit home. The refrain in there, "Stayed in Mississippi a day too long," was originally actually found in a prison song from the Mississippi Penitentiary, Parchment Farm. You have a little eerie line in there, "Sky full of fire, pain pouring down," that unfortunately reflected 9/11. And then finally you have one of my favorite lyrics in here, "My heart is not weary, it's light and it's free. I've got nothing but affection for all those who've sailed with me." Lots to unpack in this tune. Thought it was just great, and you grew appreciation the more you listen to it. But,
yes, for sure.
Good stuff. And now we're going to go to the next track here, "Summer Days."
I don't like the arrangement on it. I know I already said that on the first song. If you're a child of the 80s, I'm going to give a reference here. It almost sounds like a Stray Cats song. And you may love Brian and the Stray Cats. I do not, and so I just didn't really care for this. He has a great little line here that where he says something like, "You're telling me, well, you can't repeat the past?" Well, of course you can. And that's true, because I always hear people that can't repeat the past. Well, I mean, most people in their lives do just keep repeating the same mistakes over and over again. And
this had some notes, or some odes rather, to F. Scott Fitzgerald and The Great Gatsby. And here, kind of the story, our protagonist is out looking for a bit of a wild time, and if there isn't one near him, he'll go and seek out the next. I think I like this one more than you. And then we go to a song that's shorter, only a little over 3 minutes, "By and By." Much slower tempo here and more relaxed than Summer Days. Had that organ that featured more prominently. And here Bob recognizes that he's maybe a little older, but he still muses and shows that he has stuff to say.
Yeah, and some people think it's similar to a Billie Holiday song, "Having Myself a Time." There's a great line in here, "Well, the future for me is already a thing of the past. You were my first love, and you will be my last." On a lot of these songs, I like the lyricism and the arrangement. First song I didn't like, third song I didn't like. This one I'm so on, so we're kind of two arrangements I didn't like. One I loved on Mississippi, so on this one. That's going to take us to the next track, "Lonesome Day Blues." It's 11 verses. Every first line of a verse repeats in the second. So I thought that was an interesting songwriting technique that we pick up on because I look at his lyrics so much. A great job of painting the picture on the lyrics, which goes without saying. It's a little over 6 minutes long. And in that I put that it's a little long for me. And I usually don't think that way with his songs. It's not horrible or anything, but just a little long.
This is actually probably my second favorite track on the record. Blind Willie McTell, the blues legend, actually has a song of the same name, different lyrics, of course, but kind of cool ode by Bob there. And man, our protagonist, he's having a rough go of it. Yeah. His mom and dad are dead. His sister went off and married. He's living with this girl for a few months, and he mentions we didn't even sleep together. There's some humorous lines in here,
that is
honestly.
Funny. Yeah, there is some humorous lines for sure.
But I enjoyed this one quite a bit, just with the story it told. I don't know, it struck a chord with me, man.
Well, we're going to finish out this. There's 4 sides of this. It's just because it's, like you said, almost an hour long. Floater.
Yeah.
Too much to ask in parentheses. There was a little minor plagiarism controversy in this. I mean, Bob didn't deny that he lifted a few lines from a 1991 Japanese book about a crime boss.
Yeah, he notes and kind of throws back to that on a lot of tracks on this record.
He does, and he just basically said, if you think it's so easy, why don't you try to do it yourself? And threw around a couple derogatory comments of those people who were saying that about him. Once again, I'm not trying to be a broken record, no pun intended. The arrangement for me was just so on this.
Well, this was more country and Americana infused. This was my least favorite up to this point.
Okay. Making me feel a little better because I love Bob, man. I'm not trying to go in on Bob, I promise.
But in here, Dylan talks about, everything from Romeo and Juliet to family conflicts and whatnot. So just not a lot for me that I latched onto on on this one. I know we're probably in the minority there, but we're going to go now to track number 7, High Water for CHARLEY, PATTON. And here we introduce the banjo, man.
Yeah, we do, man. I was a little taken aback by that. I liked it. I always love when we throw different instrumentation in there. And it draws its title from obviously a CHARLEY PATTON song, High Water Everywhere, and meant to be a tribute to CHARLEY PATTON. It's one of the many songs based on the 1927 Louisiana flood. Bob draws a sweeping portrait of the South's racial history, with the unsung blues singer as a symbol of the region's cultural richness and ingrained social cruelties. Bob talks about it's tough out there. There's water everywhere.
Yeah, and here it almost felt like Bob was a preacher saying the impending doom that was coming in. This I enjoyed the arrangement. This was definitely a bounce back for me from Floater. And then we go to track 8, Moonlight, and here it again had a little bit of a slower tempo.
Very much.
Kind of like By and By. Lots of great imagery here, and Bob really paints a scene probably better than any other song on the record almost. So I thought it was a good tune.
It reminded me something almost that a crooner would do.
Yeah.
Like we could throw Sinatra on there. And
yeah, that's a good point.
Kind of pull this off. So it's definitely a different thing musically to go from the previous song, High Water, which sounds really old. I mean, it sounds like something that could have been released in 1927. Not a bad thing. And then go to almost a crooner number. Now we're going to move on to song number 9, Honest With Me. Basically, he's in love with her. Many verses end with, you don't understand it, my feelings for you. Well, you be honest with me if you only knew. Very hard driving. Drums are good. Guitars are nice. For me, a pretty decent song. And as I mentioned with the previous two, 3 totally different songs on what makes up this side 3.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned the drums, because I thought the rhythm section on this track in particular was probably the best on the record.
Yeah, because they're not prevalent in a lot of other places, for sure.
Shout out to David Kemper on that one. And here you got a story of a guy who's a bit of a loose cannon, who still has a bit of a humorous nature to him. I thought it was a solid tune for what it was, man. And then that takes us to track 10, Oh boy.
Yeah, and this one sounds like it could have been released in 1920 to me.
Yeah, there's some great humorous lines in here. I say, how much you want for that? I go into the store. The man says $3. All right, I say, will you take 4? Love the ending too. Freddie or not, here I come. I mean, kind of cheesy, but I don't know. It worked. Some charming lines in there. Cool arrangement. And I don't know, man. This was kind of a sleeper track for me. I didn't expect to... I didn't expect to like it as much as I did, but hey, I did, man. And then
now we're going to go to Cry a While, where TREY, there's also, I mean, it's a Dylan album, right?
Yeah.
So no matter whether you love it, don't like it, it's going to have fantastic lines and lyricism on different songs. This one in particular I liked. The last verse, well, you bet on a horse and it ran on the wrong way. I always said you'd be sorry, and today could be the day. I might need a good lawyer. Could be your funeral, my trial. Well, I cried for you. Now it's your turn. You can cry a while. All verses end with that last line that I just said. It's an okay song for me, but the lyricism's fantastic.
Yeah, and this, again, got to highlight the rhythm section. Thought it did a wonderful job of switching from the more upbeat, kind of nature to mellowing out, and just taking the listener on a journey there. And again, very bluesy like arrangement there. And then we're going to end the record out with the track Sugar Baby. I want to highlight the lyric. There ain't no limit to the amount of trouble women bring. Love is pleasing, love is teasing, love's not an evil thing. Ends the record on a bit of a somber and contemplative note.
Yeah, very stripped back.
About just relationships in general. For this type of record and just what it was bringing forth in both content and arrangement wise, I thought this was a fitting closer.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, I don't have much else to say about it. That was a pretty good tune. That takes us to our favorite tracks. TREY, you mentioned it, earlier. It's 12 tracks. For me, I really only have one favorite track, and I mean, I played it up enough, the second track, Mississippi, but it is one of probably my favorite 10 Dylan songs I've heard.
Yeah.
Maybe, I don't know, man. That's a tough list. I haven't sat down and made that list, but it's up there at least.
I'm going to go with Mississippi and Lonesome Day Blues.
Okay.
Those were the two that really struck a chord for me, and then there was a lot in here that I just enjoyed as well. There were 1 or 2 duds for me, but 12 tracks, not too bad.
So now we come to our overall grade, and it's tough. You mentioned it, 12 tracks, and this is one of the times where I just
You didn't vibe with it.
I don't vibe with, usually when we listen to an album that's got huge critical acclaim, this kind of universal critical acclaim, at least, usually it's really good. I mean, it usually has that much critical acclaim because it's really good. For me, I just didn't vibe with it. I didn't vibe with Time Out of Mind either. And I love me some Robert Zimmerman, man. He's one of my favorite artists of all time, but this one just didn't vibe with me.
Sometimes the records just don't hit, man.
So I'm going to give it a 6.0 out of 10. Still not a horrible grade or anything, but I just didn't feel it, man.
No, I mean I respect that, man, and I did enjoy this more than Time Out of Mind. I will say, for me personally, just I think where the biggest kind of difference is are you gonna like this bluesy arrangement that Bob's doing? And if you're not vibing with that as much, you're probably not gonna like the record, since it is so rooted in that blues style. But I thought the band and the production was much better than Time Out of Mind for me personally. I thought it was very consistent, and some of the more funny and just humorous lines that Bob's ever done.
A nice differentiation in the songs, as we mentioned. I will throw that out there.
And again, just coming in hot with the lyricism as well, drawn from so many different sources. So I'm going to be at an 8.0 for me. So I like it. We got a little differentiation, man.
All right.
I'll be curious in the comments below.
I would say 95% are going to agree with you, Trey, because and I get that, and I respect that.
Well, I mean, there's tons of critical, successes in regards to their acclaim that I don't dig. So
I mean, it is what it is. Yeah. Man. One thing about this channel, we are always honest. Man. We do not overblow or hype stuff up,
But anyways, let us know what you think of this record below. As always, Dad, appreciate the research, man. Shout out to our guy Sean as well, our patron, for suggesting this, and a ton of Dylan records that we've done.
Man, it's been great.
Always been fun. But until next time, y'all, thanks for watching. Happy listening, and we will see you.